Welcome everyone and good afternoon, Region 4. It's so exciting to be here with you all. I see some engagement in the chat, so if you haven't already, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know what agency you're at, what's your role, and where you're located in Region 4. My name is Millie Knopp. I'm the Federal Project Officer that supports grantees in the states of Georgia and South Carolina, and you have made it to your regional meeting. We're going to dive in today. Our topic is all about aftercare. And one of our staff members, one of our team, Alicia Parks, is experiencing a few challenges and technical difficulties, but never fear. The rest of Region 4 is here to kind of just run through things. So I'm going to just get started with the presentation. So apologies in advance if some of this is clunky, but
Millie, hi, I've made it. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Millie, for jumping in to introduce this session. I have had some technical difficulties, but at the last minute, Wi-Fi worked for me, and I have been able to join this regional meeting. And so we are hoping that it stays steady and that I'm here. But I know that my colleagues, Millie and Carolyn, have my back and support, and I'm just so thrilled that I was able to join. So first, let me say again, as Millie has introduced you, and welcome you to our regional meeting. Let me introduce myself. My name is Alicia Parks. My pronouns are she and her. I am a youth services program specialist or federal project officer with the Division of Runaway and Homeless Youth within Family Youth Services Bureau. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I support the RHY grantees in Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Happy National Runaway Prevention Month. And again, welcome to the Region 4 meeting at the National Grantee Training. For those of you who have attended previous national training, and for those of you who are first-timers, we are thankful that you have joined us in this virtual space at this appointed time. We are grateful to each of you for the ways in which you support youth, young adults, and families in your communities to prevent or end youth homelessness. Our regional meeting is a safe space for sharing information and asking questions. In this space, let us all agree to welcome multiple perspectives, to engage with an open mind, to use inclusive language, to be respectful of other comments, and lastly, let's operate in grace. There are multiple ways that you can engage in today's meeting. You can choose to be on camera or not, to share your thoughts and ask questions. You may unmute yourself and use your voice. And you, of course, may use the chat box. You also will have the opportunity to participate in poll questions. And you also may use the reactions features at the bottom of your screen to communicate your feelings. So, hey, if you want to communicate with me now, give me, how are you feeling about the national training at this moment, by selecting a reaction that reflects your feelings about day 2 or your experience thus far with the national training. I see stars and smiley face. Yes, again, I'm excited and thrilled to be on in this space right now. Let me give as I'm looking at the reactions, just happy. Hope you guys see that. Okay, so what is the plan for today? So for each of the 10 regional meetings during the national training, the primary topic, as Millie has shared, is to address aftercare and follow-up. Our game plan for today is to first provide context for aftercare and follow-up by highlighting program requirements, then launch a few poll questions, and then next we'll have facilitate grantee discussion on the topic, and then we'll wrap it up, and you guys can participate in the next activities with the national training. So let's begin with the context for aftercare and follow-up. I have a question for you. Is aftercare required for all four RHY programs? So is aftercare required for all four: the Basic Center program, Street Outreach program, Maternity Group Home, Transitional Living program? So I'm seeing a lot of yes, affirmatives in the chat. Yes, that aftercare is required for all programs. All right, so this may be a little surprising for you. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so is aftercare required for all RHY programs? Now, with the language that's in, with the language, the answer to that will be no, as far as the language of aftercare and follow-up. Aftercare is only required for residential stays in RHY programs. So that is for the Basic Center program, the Emergency Shelter Services, Transitional Living program, and Maternity Group Home. Aftercare is not required for the Basic Center program's prevention services or Street Outreach program. And follow-up, I guess we went a little too far with the slides. If we could back up one slide, that'd be great. Okay. So aftercare, again, is only required for the residential stays in the RHY programs. And so what you see listed is the BCP, and that is again, the Emergency Shelter Services component of the Basic Center program. Aftercare is required also for Transitional Living program and the Maternity Group Home. Follow-up is required for all 4 RHY programs. Okay, next slide, because I see some of you guys may be like, wait a minute. I thought that aftercare and follow-up were required for all 4 programs. So that makes you wonder, what is the difference? What is the distinction between the two? So whenever you have a question about program requirements, where do you go to? You go to the foundational resources. You go to the RHY Act. You go to the RHY rule. You go to the notice of funding opportunity in which your grant was awarded. So, and of course, you can always come to your federal project officer when you have questions. However, the foundational resources are a great first step. So when we look at the definitions for aftercare and follow-up, this will provide our context, for today's conversation. So per the RHY rule, aftercare is the additional services provided beyond the period of residential stay that offer continuity and supportive follow-up to youth served by the program. So now when you look at that definition, you see that follow-up, it says supportive follow-up is a part of the aftercare definition. Now, follow-up by itself applies to the Street Outreach program. And so per the Street Outreach program notice of funding opportunity, it defines follow-up as the act of assessing youth progress after the youth has received safety and resource referrals. Now, as a way to, I guess in my mind, see the difference between aftercare and follow-up is aftercare is the provision of services. So for example, that may be the counseling, that is the continued case management, it may be the service referrals. And Follow-up is the check-in call. It is the contact, the check-in contact. So that may be by phone, by text, by email, or some other agreed upon method with the youth. So aftercare is the actual service. Follow-up is the contact. And again, when looking at the statutory, regulatory, and NOFO language, the BCP program, the Basic Center program, the maternity group home program, and the transitional living program require aftercare services, which include follow-up, and then street outreach program requires follow-up. Okay. Next slide, please. So aftercare is a component of the comprehensive youth-centered service model. Aftercare may be provided directly by your organization or through referrals. And aftercare and follow-up are required regardless of the community or state the youth exits to. Grantees should work with the youth and referral organizations to ensure youth are receiving the services within their community of reference, their community of residence. Okay, next slide. So let's discuss documentation as it relates to aftercare and follow-up. So for aftercare plans must be developed with the youth. They must outline the services where services were provided, and it also must include appropriate referrals for needed healthcare services, counseling, insurance coverage, and other services that the youth may need. As far as tracking follow-up and aftercare, your aftercare plans must track the youth and family housing status, educational services, and the rate of participation and completion of the services in the plan beyond the 3 months. So aftercare is required for at least 3 months, and your documentation should show that. The documentation in your youth file should reflect that documentation. If you say a youth declines aftercare or states or say they do not want to be contacted, that also should be documented in your youth files. And then also aftercare is reported in RHY, HMIS as well. So that I also would note that as far as with the aftercare plans, particularly for the Basic Center program, that an aftercare plan must be established within 3 days of receiving Basic Center program shelter services. So that is a key thing to note. That's a distinction between the other programs, that the aftercare plan for the BCP should be created within 3 days of receiving shelter services. Okay, so with that, that provides some context about aftercare and follow-up. And next, I'm going to pass it to my colleague, wonderful colleague, Carolyn Bates, to launch some poll questions.
All right, absolutely. Thank you, Alicia. So glad you were able to join us. It is wonderful to have everyone here. My name is Carolyn Bates, and I am currently working with our Florida grantees. And so again, it is just so awesome that you all are able to join us in this safe space. So I have a couple of poll questions to launch for you. Poll 1, what incentives do you use to keep youth engaged after exit? Please feel free to select all that applies. And we'll give you a minute to make your selection. And since this is a multiple choice, I am just personally curious as to what comes up. All right, and the response? We have 41% for food, 40% for gift cards, 40% for transportation, 41% for other, and 22% for none. All right, thank you for those responses. Poll question 2. Do you believe that your program is using a best practice for providing aftercare services that could be implemented by other RHY grantee organizations? Yes or no? And with this one, also feel free to put what those best practices are in our chat. All right. And our response, 62% of you said yes. So thank you. Poll 3. Does your organization use a youth advisory board as part of maintaining engagement with youth after exit? And there you can make your choice. All right. %39% of you said yes, and 61% of you said no. All right. And for the last poll, what types of aftercare training and technical assistance would be most helpful for improving your organization's aftercare projects? Feel free to select all that may apply. All right. And here we have our responses with being TA documents, tip sheets, and slides to have the most highest, 58%. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your participation. And I will turn it over to my colleague, Millie Knopp, for our discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carolyn. And again, hello, welcome. Good afternoon, Region 4. I'm so pleased to be with you all today. Like I kind of briefly mentioned at the beginning, my name is Millie Knopp, Federal Project Officer based in Atlanta, Georgia, supporting grantees in Georgia and South Carolina. And I am going to kind of shuttle us to our facilitated discussion portion of this meeting. Truly, we as federal project officers, our role is to support you all and understand and share best practices that you all are experiencing in the field, and especially in regards to aftercare, which I know myself and other federal project officers hear time and time again can be the most challenging component of some of the RHY programs, especially nowadays today with just youth being so much more mobile. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. This is meant to be, again, a facilitated, rich, and robust discussion with answers, uplifting answers from this peer community, both successes as well as challenges. As my colleagues have shared, this is a safe space to truly share some of the experience from the field and the direct service. What is a success and what is a real challenge? So before we pitch this question, just wanted to let you all know and encourage you all to utilize the chat, but would be preferred if you are able to come off of mute and, just engage with us verbally, share your experience. That would be to the benefit of us all greatly. And with that being said, because there are, how many people do we got here? Over 100 people on this chat. Please feel free to utilize the raise hand function. It's under reactions, and in order so we can cut back on kind of folks talking over one another. That can sometimes be a challenge virtually. And just a quick reminder, if you're not speaking, please just ensure that you're on mute. I see some activity in the chat. I'll pitch the question and then we can kind of just dive in. So creative practices that have kept youth engaged with your program after exit. Let's see, I have a clear view. So Tiffany's story says opportunities for community fellowship. Would love to hear a little bit more about that, Tiffany, if you feel like coming off of mute and sharing. Mac Caldwell, hi Mac. Aftercare at Mercy is enhanced by the utilization of drop-in centers that youth can still use following exit. Love to see that connection between programs. Thank you for that. Chelsea from Safe Harbor, hi Chelsea. Using reward incentives to keep clients engaged into aftercare. Chelsea, I know that you all have a kind of a system of different rewards. So if you feel comfortable coming off of mute and sharing that, would love to hear it. Josh Crocker, hey Josh, all my Georgia and South Carolina folks, hi. For those who use gift cards, this is a question. How are those provisions recorded for finance and bookkeeping? Are you using gift cards that are donated for the express purpose of direct client services? Okay, there's a lot of activity in the chat. Anyone feel free to come off of mute and share a little bit more?
Hello, this is Latoya from Haven House Services. I am the operations coordinator for Street Outreach and Transition in Place. Both of our programs, we offer aftercare services where we contact the youth monthly for Transition in Place. And that call entails just checking in, see how they're doing, if they need any food, hygiene services, or basic needs in general. We provide basic needs services for them monthly on that call. And then if they need further resources, we refer them out to further resources as well. And for our street outreach program, we provide the same method, except for it's every 3 months for them.
Thank you so much, Latoya.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we will discuss kind of the differences in engagement and how that looks with different programs. We know that, with street outreach, it can often be more light touches, where some of the more residential TLP and MGH, you all certainly might experience kind of more supportive aftercare in that respect. Anyone else? I'm looking to the 62% of folks that wrote in the poll. They have best practices to share. We are all ears. Would love to hear from you.
I'll go. This is Tiffany Story. I'm with Children's Aid Society of Alabama. Our program is Project Independence, and we're a maternity group home. One of the things that we do is every year we do family pictures for the girls in the program, because oftentimes they don't have those memories captured of their pregnancy, or they can't afford to take pictures with their children. So we create family memories that we usually give to them every Christmas. But we always invite, how many ever girls we have time and can afford to take on, we invite them to come back and take pictures with us. So that's one way we stay in touch. Prior to COVID, which is something we're resuming in the new year, the girls came up with YAC play dates. Our youth advisory council usually meets quarterly, but they felt like that was not enough time to really check in with one another. And we usually centered it around doing some type of street outreach and community service project. And so we started play dates where the current and past participants are able to get together and come up with what they want to do, and they actually kind of facilitate that activity. They bring food, we meet at the park. And so in the new year, we're going to actually start focusing on pre and postnatal yoga. And it'll be a way for us to bring our girls in, check in, see how their mental and emotional well-being is doing, and also being able to provide them resources and give them some of the things that, we typically take in terms of donations like clothing, luggage, bedding, and all of those type of things.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Again, just so exciting to hear the different innovative practices that y'all are implementing and sharing. I see some activity in the chat as well, mentioning, let's see, Kelly Foster, we have a monthly support meeting where we invite all clients for aftercare or follow-up. We have a hot meal, shopping in our closet, food, clothing, household supplies, etc. Awesome to hear. Those incentives, again, just the creativity that you all are employing, it's exciting to share this across our community. Anyone else might want to share a bit about some incentives they're utilizing as part of aftercare? Okay, I'll just keep going through the chat. Feel free to interrupt me if anyone would like to speak. Chelsea Parker, hosting aftercare events such as hosting an aftercare dinner. That is great to hear. And I'm sure, again, that Chelsea, if you'd like to share anything more about that, about how successful that has been, would love to hear it.
Okay, I'll go ahead, Miss Millie.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chelsea Parker, and I'm located in Brunswick, Georgia. I work for Safe Harbor Children's Center, our Zach's Place location. And one thing that we did to keep our clients active was we started a aftercare rewards program. Now, I know you guys are familiar with the Target Circle at Target, right? So we created aftercare circle where with every call that the client is engaging with us, we give them a reward incentive. So like, for instance, if we're doing the 24-hour follow-up and the client actually responds to us and they give us an update, we'll offer like a food box. And then for the 30-day, if they answer our call, engage in aftercare, then we'll offer basically a gift card, a gas gift card, or we'll do something like, make a referral that they may need. So we just started that. And also another reward system that we started was hosting an annual aftercare dinner. And we have had great turnouts within our community for our aftercare clients. So those are two things that we decided to do to keep our clients engaged after they discharge from our program.
Thank you, Chelsea. Appreciate it. So back to the chat. And again, if anyone has something to share, feel free to jump in. But is it Ashia Harrison, CYDC? Oh, hi. We provide clinical services to all our youth who previously were in our care, counseling, therapeutic cards for transportation, and light. Yes, I know. I remember when I visited y'all that program. Great to hear. Thank you. Let's see, Lisa, relationship building is going to be the key in order to keep our youth engaged. Yes, they must feel like we care in order for them to trust us. This is how we're able to meet their immediate and long-term needs effectively. Thanks for that, Lisa. And that kind of brings up a question, on site visits, we often try to troubleshoot and support. Would love to hear if anyone has an experience like in challenges with aftercare, and maybe if there was a way that you implemented a creative solution to that, or a different method of contact, and if that might have changed, changed the responsiveness of youth. Anyone feeling brave and excited to come and share a little bit about challenges?
Hi, it's Latrice Thompson Chapman with Hope Center for Children in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Challenge, fortunately, aftercare has always been our Achilles tendon, due to the fact that even when we try not to inadvertently pose it in a way that it's voluntary, we phrase it like, yeah, so just to let you know, we will be contacting you in 30 days and versus, are you okay with us contacting you? We still tend to run into things where they aren't responding to the phone calls or text messages. They do end up with new numbers. I even created a Facebook page where old residents can connect back with us. But that, fizzled out a little bit as well. So it's just been challenging in regards to just really getting back in touch. And with some of these, of course, we know how our youth are in our program. Some of them leave due to not willing to meet expectations. So of course you are, for lack of a better term, fighting against that because they're ready to get out of there. They don't want any more parts of your program because they don't want a curfew. They don't want to do XYZ. They don't want to get a job. And, this isn't for me, so I'm leaving. So then we run into not being able to get the information we need as a follow-up or as aftercare because of how they left. And then the ones that do leave on really relatively good terms, and yeah, we're able to meet some of them, but some of them is just no response back. And that is just what we've unfortunately, and they get new phone numbers and we don't have the access to their new information. So that's been our challenges. And even though we do offer gift cards and things as such, even that isn't just enough for them, especially if they have a little job. And we've just tried to hear word of mouth from possible people they may keep in contact with, or if lurking on their social media to see what's going on and things like that. But
thank you, Latrice, for sharing that very candid experience that I'm sure is not uncommon, and I'm sure it resonated with a lot of folks on this call. Simply just continuing to be that presence in the community, as well as continuing the outreach, or just continuing the great work. Like you mentioned, so much is word of mouth with youth, for that youth to know that you all are still there and still able to provide those supports is, the most important thing in those cases. All right. I'm going to go to the chat, and then I think we can move on to our second question. Let's see. Just read a couple items here. Relationship building is key from Natalie White. Continued support and starting aftercare before discharge. Yep. Making sure youth is a part of the aftercare discussion and plan. Love it. Yes. This was another follow-up question I wanted to check in with. Wanted to hear how you all, what does that look like in terms of youth engagement with their aftercare plan? Certainly with Basic Center, that's a really short timeline. You're virtually planning aftercare as you might be doing intake, but with other longer term programs, it can be ongoing. So wanted to hear, what are different ways that you encourage and engage youth to be part of this aftercare planning, especially in terms of their goal setting? Tough crowd, y'all. Okay, let's go to the chat. Let's see what we got.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes. Hi, Emmy.
Yes. Hi. Hey there, Emmy from Haven House. Latoya also from Haven House spoke earlier on this. I think I didn't really hear what she said, but I think something for us in our street outreach program that is able to continue to engage youth into the end is that they are still able to get services afterwards. So while obviously we want to talk to them, but also it's if they need any basic needs services, if they need diapers for their kids or hygiene or anything like that, being able to still be that kind of line of those kind of basic physical needs of support also kind of allows us to be the line of, maybe emotional support if needed, or just kind of still being able to still being able to know where they're at in their status and everything. And it also is more incentive for them to keep our contact information and to keep our, our stuff on hand. So I found that is a good goal of just being able to still offer those basic needs services after the fact, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much for that, Emmy. Appreciate it. Seeing a lot of, similar thoughts in the chat, ambivalence, barriers, and maybe youth experiencing some embarrassment for having received services. Wanted to uplift the comment from Kristen Powell from Palmetto Place. Hi, Kristen. We started getting both email and phone numbers when youth enter our residential programs. We found that they are more likely to keep email long-term than phone, and have been able to reconnect with several clients that way. We also started an open Instagram page, cool, that focuses on client resources, community activities. Great innovation there, and interesting to hear about email. That wouldn't be my first thought for youth connection, but it's surprising and interesting to hear. Let's see. Oh, hi, Keith. Be sure to document attempts. Keith is our regional program manager here in Region 4. Be sure to document attempts and the barriers or issues you encounter in the youth's file. Yes, documentation. Your FPO will certainly have discussions with you about that on site visits. One grantee shared yesterday that they offer youth leaving the program to come back and do laundry for free. Oh, cool. They have really helped to keep in contact with some of their youth. I would imagine that's especially helpful for youth that might be in a residential facility without, laundry or coin laundry. Okay, great. Woo, okay, we've got a lot of different stuff going on in the chat. I do want to move us along. Let's go ahead into the next question, if that's okay. Next slide, please. One back. Okay. For agencies who administer multiple grant programs, are there differences in the way that you deliver aftercare services? So I'll probably dig right back into the chat. But as Alicia mentioned previously, kind of in the overview, the difference between follow-up and aftercare being more supportive for agencies that have basic center, transitional living, and maternity group home facilities, but street outreach follow-up, I know, looks quite a bit different. If anyone feels like sharing, maybe some of the differences that you approach aftercare with residential versus some of that outreach, would love to hear it. Again, they're kind of two different beasts, two different approaches. Okay. While we are fighting people back from the microphone, I'm going to go back to the chat, but please interrupt me if you have something to share. Curtis from Sea Haven. Hi, Curtis. We invite them back for trips, giveaways, community events. They are aware we have an open door for them. Absolutely. Again, just your presence in the community sometimes is enough for them to know that they are supported. Thank you, Curtis, for sharing that. Anna Loisel, hi. We housed a week-long activity workshop for youth entitled Leadership Week, and life skills activities were featured. Oh, cool. The youth responded positively, and some prompted their families to continue engaging after the workshop. Love it. Sometimes those intentional workshops or, activities centered around awareness days, awareness month, like National Runaway Prevention Month, can be a great anchor to getting some events and aftercare follow-up, activities pushed out. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Aisha Chestnut. Hi, Aisha. Oh, yep. Hi. Latrice again. Let's see, we provide that resource to youth as well. Okay. Just going to skim through these. Hi, Laura. Hi, Dr. Laura. We started a monthly virtual mentoring group that they attend. Started during COVID, which many like to continue after they leave. They engage with peers and a group of mentors for fun and virtual activities. Awesome. Region 4, I think we are doing stellar in terms of these creative and innovative ideas. I know that this chat ideas and different practices will be saved, but I just wanted to commend you all. Big congratulations and a round of applause for some of these great practices that, again, will be able to be circulated across our RHY community. Okay, let's see. Heather Bush, hi. Oh, it's popping up too fast. We've got laundry services. We continue to ensure them that food, hygiene, and different services are offered as needed. Different events, love it. Kristen from Palmetto, again, aftercare events for our RRH. Oh, that must be Runaway and Homeless Youth Aftercare and Resource and Navigation clients, so they're able to connect with one another, and our staff, dinners, recreational events, resource fair with community partners. Love it. Okay, thank you all for that. Another follow-up question, and this is particularly to the 39% of folks that answered in the poll that they have a youth advisory board that they engage with aftercare supports or initiatives. Would love to hear a little bit more about that from you all. For those that have YABs, youth advisory boards, how do you engage them with aftercare?
Hey Millie, I'll share. This is Jackie in Atlanta, Covenant House, Georgia. We do experience a lot of challenges with our youth advisory board, inviting folks back for, for continued participation. But we use some of the initiatives that have already been highlighted. We try to make it, about the meeting, but we try to make it social as well, so that there's a meal offered as well. Some incentive. We usually try to offer, gift cards or something of that nature. We usually will work with individuals around any sort of transportation challenge that they may have as well, just to kind of facilitate them being there. And then I know that during this time of virtual kind of participation, that's also offered as a way of participating in meetings as well.
Thank you so much, Jackie, and great to see you.
See you.
Thank you for raising that about transportation. I know I know across my portfolio of grantees, especially those of you all that might be in semi-urban or rural suburban areas, transportation is a challenge, right? Anyone else have some great best practices around transportation, aftercare, how that's worked for you all to further engage youth that might be hard to reach? Okay, while you all think on that, we've got a question from Jamie. What time do you feel works best for youth advisory boards to meet? During the week, after school, or weekends? I would love to just open that up for discussion if folks have some experience or best practice in setting a time for the youth advisory board. Okay, Monica says midday weekends, and I know, so much of what we support is youth choice. So as a best practice also, it would be just kind of engaging maybe the group of youth and within that youth advisory board to set up a time that works for their schedule. But would love to hear other experiences. Okay. Yep, in the chat, asking the group Dash, or is it Dej, from what time works for them. We got a variety of different, answers. Polling the group, certainly. Okay. I hope you all have been taking some great notes and again are feeling inspired from some of these different discussions and conversations today. I'd like to just open it up in general for any other experiences, successes, challenges that folks would like to share as we get closer to wrapping up our meeting.
This is Jamie again. I'm just curious that, of course, with everything that we've had going on with COVID, it was basically impossible for us to have our youth advisory board, not only because everything was on lockdown, but because how many staff we lost and just the same things that you have all suffered through it out. So have any of you got creative on how to, we have a lot of best practices, but those were several years ago. But now we have new people that have taken over. Thank you, Jesus, that we have two new wonderful life skills coach that will be doing that. But any advice for them, and I know they're both on here, on what they need to do to get that reestablished and really up and going again? Because we still have a little bit of the COVID stuff, or flu, and a lot of things. Getting staff hired, but still not full staff. So, I worry about kind of halfway getting it implemented and it not taking off. What do we do to just really get it back? I mean, because it was a valuable part of our program in the past.
Hear you on that, Jamie. And I don't know if I have the magic ticket or golden answer. Anyone else having a similar experience that would like to share?
This is a quiet group.
might be the weather. Jamie, there is a really great platform within RHY called the Community of Practice, where we encourage grantees to go and share, kind of start a discussion. But I'd also say, you know, and again, folks, feel free to chime in. I'm a project officer that's very office-based and not direct service, but incentives, from what I've seen on site visits and heard from different grantees, incentives, stipends, you know, paying youth for their expertise and their input can be a great way to kind of incentivize and get youth back re-engaged, especially as you mentioned, like with the staffing challenges and retention. I think it's a time to get creative, but I would certainly recommend incentives and would love to hear if anyone has some in specific that they've utilized for youth.
Hi, Millie. This is Jessica Kennedy from Safe Harbor in Liberty and Bryan County, Georgia. Not specific to the agency I now work for, but when I worked in North Carolina for another nonprofit agency, I worked in a grant-funded program that targeted parenting young adults from the ages of 13 to 24. And some of the incentives that we used in that program were paying for tuition for continuing ed courses like pharmacy tech, medical bill and coding, medical office assistant, as well as paying for those books. Pharmacy tech books are incredibly expensive. We had programs where twice a month we did quote unquote parent meetup. And then we also had, I won't call them life skill classes, but practical application classes where we would kind of do things like read a novel. And in that novel, maybe the characters were going through domestic violence, and then use those opportunities to talk about safe practices in those situations. And then as you came to those different types of events, if you came to 4, you received a $50 gas card, things of that. So when we're talking about incentives, and I will clarify that this, it was a grant funded program and it was through the state of North Carolina. So I don't want to confuse anyone about parameters on what types of funds can or cannot be used. However, the creative thought because that program was meant for building resiliency and preventative, so that individuals did not lose housing or things of that sort by keeping them, sorry, I apologize. The business cell goes off quite frequently. So those are just kind of things that we did, and that was a year-long grant, and it was really productive. We had over 1,000 touches of youth with a sustainability of every month 20 to 25 people being completely active in our program. So we also did things like childcare subsidies and getting them partnered into those correct areas. Those are just ideas. And again, I don't want to give any impression that the funding that we're speaking about now could be used for those things, but they're just kind of the out of box activities that we did to keep engagement up. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And that, again, kind of helps us see just the creative and different ways that grantee agencies blend funding to support youth in some of these kind of more higher level initiatives, especially with youth advisory boards. I want to go back to Anna Loisel's question in the chat just about elaborating about youth advisory boards. I should have kind of prefaced this with that. But for folks that are kind of just getting up to speed with what a YAB is, In line with FISB and RHY's use of positive youth development in encouraging and supporting youth choice and engaging youth with lived expertise, we see it often as a best practice to incorporate a formal channel to advise agencies about different ways for, service provision that is effective and inclusive, sensitive to youth's needs, and for them to have participation and voice in kind of shaping those decisions. I know I might pick on Diamond Dumas over at RHY. Diamond, I know that does a lot of work, and on the RHY platform, there is more information about youth advisory boards. So Diamond, if you have any info you'd like to share with our grantees about different resources within RHY for that, would love to hear that. But certainly, again, it's a best practice. We know it can look different for youth that are in a transitional living and maternity group home versus those that might just be in a shelter for a couple days or street outreach. The possibility and capability for that kind of engagement very much differs. So let's see. In the chat, if I can find anything that kind of supports this. Monica says our TL program, transitional living program, are part of our youth advisory board, and they lead things as part of the transitional living program. So Monica, would love, if you'd like to come off of mute and share a little bit more, would love to hear about that. Let's see. Lisa says allowing youth to lead life skills training and letting them share about what the most important issues are about their life and needs in person. Okay, we've got questions about those different incentives. And I don't have the answers to those, but again, I encourage you all to continue to engage this conversation within the community of practice on the RHY platform, as well as if you within your state or your agency are ever looking to connect with another grantee agency, please reach out to your federal project officer. We often have the pulse on what different agencies are doing and how we can connect and support this community in knowledge sharing around some of these different incentives projects. Let's see, Diamond said something. Hi, Diamond. Dropping links in now. Okay, great. All right, folks, we're getting close to the end of time. I just really wanted to, again, say thank you all for your participation, for your ideas, for your questions, for the inspirational practices that you all are doing and benefit for our grantee community here in the Southeast, Region 4. I wish I had a catchy phrase to kind of, catchy catchphrase to shout for Region 4. I'll work on that. So we are moving on. We're on the resources page here. Please know Diamond is sharing this presentation in the chat, the slides for it, and it is also available within this platform under maybe one of my friends at RHY can just share the details as to how to access this within the platform, but you will have access to it. Here are some great resources. First and foremost, FISB's website, a lot in terms of rules and regs and just different programs requirement for RHY programs. National Clearinghouse is a great resource as well. We see that they have a new aftercare toolkit that can be super helpful. RHY has your back. Please reach out to them. Please connect with your FPO if we can connect you with a RHY team member. They also have a great kind of request for assistance form where you can just let them know what's going on and they'll be able to create a training and support plan from there. And National Runaway Safe Line, as you all see on my background, it is green. We are in National Runaway Prevention Month. 1-800-RUNAWAY.org has a ton of great resources on there, both in terms of social media toolkits. I think there's a really great prevention curriculum and other supports to continue to get the word out about RHY Prevention Month. And then we're going to go to the next slide. Last order of business. Again, thank you for your participation. The way that we make these sessions better for you all and more supportive for you all is to get your feedback. So last order of business, please fill out the evaluation for this session. Diamond has just dropped it in the chat. Would love to hear what was helpful for you all, what additional support you all need, so we can continue to iterate on these trainings to provide the best support. All right, so long as there are no final words, I think we are going to go ahead and wrap up. So this concludes the session today. Thank you all so much for your time.